So good morning all. It's about 6:30 in the morning now. Had a good night's sleep last night, surprisingly good considering. They woke us up around 6:15, 6:20, asking to put the beds away. And now the mission is to arrive in Chiang Mai, have a little walk around the city in the morning. I'm actually staying in a hostel tonight, and then from there I'll be heading on to Pai. Here for the rest of the journey, it's quite limited, and they come around with coffee and drinks in the morning, and also a breakfast, but I spotted it on the menu. It isn't great in comparison to what's on offer in Chiang Mai, and so I'll be holding back on the breakfast and instead getting it from Chiang Mai. At this time in the morning you can appreciate the view a lot more. Obviously through the night you can't see anything out of this window, but for the morning, very scenic. Once we arriving to Chiang Mai, nice and refreshed, let's find a good place for breakfast and have a little walk around the city. To be honest, one of my stops here, believe it or not, in rural Thailand, we don't have good access to a cinema, and most of the movies are in Thai as well, so one of my stops here is to watch the new Alien movie. Nothing to like Thai, quintessential Thai or Thai cultural. No, I'm going to watch the Alien movie. So that for me is quite exciting because we don't have access to that in rural Thailand, and so I'm looking forward to catching that movie while I'm here before I go over the hill to Pai. So I'm taking a songtail to the location where I'm going to be staying. Let me show you a bit of Chiang Mai out here. You know, actually Chiang Mai was one of the first cities that I ever arrived in. And funny story, this was around 15 years ago. When I first came, I flew from Bangkok up to Chiang Mai before I actually came out into Thailand for the first time. And the date was around April 14th. And they were all having the water fight because it was Songkran. And I just thought it was absolutely crazy. Imagine coming from the UK for the first time, and you pull up to a country and the whole country's having a water fight when you leave the airport. So it always reminds me of that, Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai was my first taste of Thailand, and having travelled now most provinces, I guess it's still one of my favourite provinces. It's like a soft-core Bangkok for me, so a little bit less intense Bangkok, but there is definitely a different vibe here than Bangkok. And I think if we didn't live in Buriram, we would probably live up in Pai. The only downside to being up in the north is the burning and the smoke. That is a bit of a problem that now in Buriram no longer happens as often. Maybe we'll get it for 5 to 10 days of the year, whereas up here in Chiang Mai I've got a lot of friends that have to leave during the burning season because they just can't take it. The other thing the city reminds me of is the backpacker trail, you know. Chiang Mai is one of the first stops for people on the old backpacker trail around Southeast Asia. So there's generally a good vibe here. And it's another reason why I want to stay in a hostel. It's not just like being cheap Charlie, staying in a hostel, but there's more of a social element I found to hostels, as well as saving a bit of money. Also, this hostel is located right near the square, so that's perfect for me. Do I need a big air-conditioned room to myself? Probably at some point in this trip I will get somewhere decent if I'm ready for like a good night's private rest. But in general, I'm cool in the crappy bungalows and the hostels of Thailand. I find them to be more social and often lead to more like meeting people, especially when I travel with my saxophone. Back in the day, I used to carry my saxophone around with me on these trails, and you would definitely meet other musicians and jam with other musicians and end up finding gigs at local bars. A little bit difficult at this point in time, although I do have a work permit. That work permit does not cover me for playing saxophone in a bar. So the spot that I'm staying here is a place called Stamps Backpackers. I heard some good reviews on it. Very, very friendly staff upon arrival here. They just let me drop my bag off. And now I'm going to go and find some coffee. I think I'm paying like 300 a night here or something like that. Very cheap, 100 baht taxi from the train station area. I'm going to go and find some coffee now in the city, have a little walk around the square. This is going to be perfect for me. It's going to be perfect for what I need for staying here. cheap, cheerful, and a little bit social as well. It looks like there's lots of nice little cafes around here also. So let's go and find somewhere nice, grab a coffee and a morning chat. So first of all, I'm super happy that it's not raining. You know, just the ability to be able to get around. And I was told, although it rains in the evening quite a lot, in the mornings it's quite nice. Actually, one of the only spots open this morning is Bruginning, little hole in the wall cafe on the corner here and down one of the soys. Very, very friendly staff. I've just ordered an iced latte. I'm going to be enjoying that. Nice vibe here in the morning. There's a couple of cafes I did check out that I was hoping to go to, which I'll probably have to go to tomorrow now. Because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, they're still not open. These guys are open at 7. The rest open at maybe like 10 or 11. And so I got myself an iced latte here. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times now on this vlog, but I really wish I brought Otis, because he could have definitely done that train journey. The bus he's done before from Buranam to Bangkok, but that train journey, I think he would have found it a huge adventure, and I'm looking forward to bringing him next time. This is the first coffee that I've had in about 2 or 3 weeks, so I imagine it's going to hit me like a ton of bricks, but I actually need it this morning. And when I travel, like, some of the bad habits can creep in, you know, not alcohol, but stuff like coffee, eating a little bit more than I usually probably would, maybe even having a smoke with some CBD, you know, something like that. I see life can't be completely vanilla, and I take these opportunities when I go away to enjoy a few bad habits that at home I just don't really need. Like, there's no reason for me to smoke at home around the kids, or I certainly wouldn't do it on my own. Like, I see it as a social thing. Even having a cigarette, like years of not smoking, I can have a cigarette with friends during travel and then not feel addicted when I get home, not need to smoke when I get home. So, and then coffee is another thing. Like, I was having a bit too much at home, bringing a little bit too much anxiety, and here on the travel, like, I have it, but generally at home these days I don't even have coffee. I live like a monk at home, to be honest, guys. Like, and I like it that way. It's healthy, feels good around the kids and whatnot. But then when you're away, why not enjoy life a little bit, do the things you want to do. I'm not talking about going on a complete bender, like going crazy, but some small things enjoy in life while you're traveling. So cheers, guys. You've got YouTubers out there that are snorting chili up their nose, like, and you got, I think it's Kurt Cuts that goes around and, like, he hammers it, like, he gets smashed and gets in all kinds of crazy situations. About as crazy as it gets on Naked Guru. Coffee. Absolutely mad. Going mental, guys. I noticed as well a few teachers on their way to school, obviously farang dressed in shirts and pants. And I was a teacher here in Thailand for about 4 or 5 years in various capacities. I started off just as an English ESL teacher, you know, did the TEFL thing and taught in a few government schools just to get my bearings. And then we built a small school in Hue Hin, which involved like recruiting teachers from all around. And it was all around the world and bringing them in. And it was quite a hard slog. And just these guys setting off to work in the morning just reminds me of how it used to be back then. Life was like, you're up at 6:30 in the morning, get yourself ready. You're in for the morning bell at 8, singing the national anthem. Sometimes the teaching profession as well can attract a few weirdos. Like I met a few weirdos over my time. A lot of nice people too, of course, but some people that really were quite questionable and shouldn't have been teaching. I think they've ironed a lot of this problem out now, because I think there's a lot more demand for teachers over here, even though the salaries are just like shite. I think at one point in the early days I was getting like 25,000-30,000 baht a month for teaching over here. I mean, the salaries were very, very low. When I eventually went into recruitment and built our own place, we used to pay around 30,000 per position, and that was doing 5 days a week, but there was a lot of paid holiday as well, paid leave. And it just reminds me of like that life when I first come here, the shock of it all, the inability to speak the language, the enjoying teaching, but it wasn't something I wanted to do forever, you know what I mean? I enjoyed the kids, and I enjoyed like making lessons creative and fun, but it wasn't something I could see myself doing forever. It was a really good stepping stone to coming to Thailand, an opportunity to learn the language a little bit, to learn the culture a little bit from the inside. I was placed in various places like Nat Prasit, just outside of Bangkok, and in Ratchaburi in Benjamin School. So these are quite more remote areas, still urban, but remote as in not many foreigners lived there. It was mainly like Thais. So definitely a good way to living in Thailand, a good start to living here, but not something I wanted to do forever. And when I see the teachers getting up in the mornings and they got the shirt on and stuff, I'm kind of glad that I'm not doing that anymore. But I don't advise people against it. I think it's a good way to learn the culture. It's not something you want to be doing forever because you won't be able to pay for like retirement. If I'd not gone into like having my own businesses here in Thailand, there'd be no scope for like building your own house like we've done and funding your like retirement and your long-term stay here. And certainly like it's hard to take care of kids when you're on a smaller teacher's salary, and a lot of your time is taken up with it too. 5 days a week you're in the school dealing with kids. It must be difficult then to come home and deal with your own kids, you know, because you've had like screaming kids all day depending on what age you're teaching. But that's a little insight into the teaching days when I was a teacher here in Thailand. So I love these little winding back roads. This is inside the moat, so inside where we saw the water which goes around this area. And I love these little quaint back streets, mainly because there's not many cars on them and there's not much traffic here as well. So people are opening up their businesses for the morning. This is inside the square. I can tell you, after being out on the train as well for so long, I feel completely wobbly. So I feel like I'm moving side to side and wobbling, but no matter how you travel, car or train or bus, you're always going to feel that when you've been traveling in a long distance for many, many hours. It's like being on a boat, right? You're rocking side to side. I think one of the key differences of being here since last time is the number of weed shops. So there's a lot of weed shops dotted around. They weren't here last time I was here, and certainly when I first came to Thailand, you had to be quite secretive if you were going to smoke the devil's lettuce. It was something that you certainly didn't do out in public, perhaps back in your room, under threat of getting 13 years in jail, depending if they got you for distribution or not. But things were quite strict then. I'm sure a lot of my subscribers will remember, especially the very, very old timers. I think the very, very old timers, though, they may remember a time where you could just smoke pot when it was legal previously, or it was not. It was, you know, during the Thai stick days when all the hippies come over and all of that, and then it kind of got criminalized, and things seem to have gone back to normal now, but it's a very different era. I only partake in the CBD flower. So here's a little look around the hostel. As you can see, it's just very basic. It's divided into multiple pods, 6 to a floor. It's air conditioned. You have your own little pod. Pull back the curtain here. There's a safe underneath the bed. It's a simple bed. It's a little table next to it. There's a plug, everything that you need. Here you have a shower and you have a toilet. So out here as well, you can see the balcony, which overlooks one of the busy streets in Chiang Mai. And anybody that's been following this vlog for any length of time knows that I am a cheap Charlie when I travel alone. If I'm traveling with the kids in Damo, I don't mind spending 8, 10, sometimes even 15,000 baht on a really nice place. When we travel Bali together, get a big bamboo villa, pool villas, things like that, because that's something like families are doing together and you're making memories together, like that's important. But when I travel on my own, like, there's a few things going on. Number one, I feel guilty of spending the kids' money. So if I stay somewhere nice, I just see it as like a waste of the kids' money when I don't need it. Like I can sleep quite well on the sleeper train. I can sleep quite well in a hostel like this, especially it's quite social. There's musical bingo on downstairs tonight. There's a number of activities here. It's very welcoming when you come in. People are really super friendly and they're just chatty, you know. So, and it's private enough for me. So it's the guilt thing, it's the saving money thing for the family. And yeah, I just need very little space. I'm happy when I have a little pod like that, somewhere comfortable to sleep. I'm happy. I spend most of the day out and about anyway, looking around Chiang Mai. And when I go to Pai as well, I'll probably stay in some dump of a bungalow by the river. I have a place that I stay quite often. And some people comment on this channel, oh my God, look at this guy, cheap Charlie, like stays in these dumps.
It's fine. I don't mind. Like, I've worked in the 5-star hotel industry, so I know what it is to live the high soul life, let's say, and I get a lot of enjoyment staying in these cheap places. I almost feel like I cheated the system a little bit too, in that you're staying in a smaller place and you didn't pay a fortune in some very kind of big commercialized hotel. If you're traveling with somebody, I get it, like you want to make the memories, or if you want to treat yourself, like maybe on this trip I'll treat myself and get a nice room or even a home, an Airbnb for a treat if I feel that way, if I feel like I need a place to relax. But right now, especially on the start of a trip, no, I'd rather conserve the cash, make it a real budget trip, and I'm here for business as well. So this trip is actually generating some money. I'm talking to some of our honey suppliers and our cacao suppliers, and I'm looking for some other products for our shop. So I'm on business here, and that is a saving for the business. I actually can put the receipts from this trip as well under my tax. I pay tax in Thailand, so I can have it written off under tax anyway, and I could with a larger room. But that's besides the point. I enjoy. You know, the other thing is, it reminds me of the early days. Like, sometimes you ever want to step back in time a little bit, like, and just like have a dip back into the old life. Like, I'm much older now, of course, but being around some backpackers, and I got chatting with a couple of subscribers here. I've been here, you know, and they just listening to their story and their journey. It just reminds me of the early days of coming to Thailand. So I get a little bit of a buzz from that, and usually, like, I think if I book into a room, I would be super like antisocial, and in a nice hotel usually people don't talk to each other as much as in a hostel, say. So I think there's a lot of benefits of me staying in a hostel. I don't know if it paints a weird picture online, but then again, my channels are all about honesty, and I don't really give a shit about presenting a luxurious life on these channels. Like, I have nothing to prove to anybody. People see my life as it is. I love it as it is, you know. And yeah, I could afford to stay in a really nice hotel here, but I just think it'd be a waste of money, quite frankly. Maybe I'm frugal, like that IKEA guy. Did you ever see that meme with the IKEA guy? I'll put it here. I don't have billions of dollars like he did, but he still collects the salt sachets, and I forgot about the other things that he does. But before he died, he drove a Volvo, a 1993 Volvo, I think. So I don't know, something in the mentality. I think also from being a backpacker since like 15 years ago, that mentality of conserving money has always stayed with me. Like, I like to conserve, and I like to invest, and I like to make sure my family, like I've said this on the channel many times, if the shit hits the fan, the family are good for a good length of time. To, you know, because anything can happen in life. You guys know that. A lot of my subscribers know that. A lot of my subscribers are older and wiser, so they know that. And you know, maybe if I was like really, really rich, then I wouldn't care. But I think I would. I think I would care, because I'm not just thinking about me. You think about the boys, think about the kids in the future. So this is perfect for me. Beautiful view of the power lines. So you can see these power lines. I know some people have said they're internet cables, but it's actually a mix of internet cables and power lines here. So, and I think it's quaint. I love it. So I'm going to be having a little walk around Chiang Mai this evening as well, seeing what there is to see, and I'll try and take you along with me. I hope you're enjoying the little trip and my personal journey here in Chiang Mai so far, and I hope you're all well.